Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the third episode now. We've made it to three somehow of Full Course Manga with, of course, Neo,
Hello.
Rick,
Hey, hey.
and the guy whose name is below the video on the YouTube channel that you're watching this on. So today we're talking about Dr. Stone, which is my pick because I like this series more than I should, probably. I like this series a
No,
lot.
I think that you're based on the little bit that I've read it. Your affection for it might be very well placed.
Okay,
Yeah, it
good.
might be justified.
Good, because god damn it, I love this series. So we'll talk a little bit about it before we get into it. I guess I will talk about it since it was my selection. Basically, this kid is a really I guess they're kids. They're in high school, but no, they all are.
He's 18.
They have ambiguous
I don't know. He's
anime
like 15, I
age
think.
where like
Yeah.
it's just not like they could be
He's
anywhere
at
from
that weird
18
age where
to
like you're still
23.
going to high school. You're still going to high school, but you also have your own apartment, I guess, or something.
It's like
Yeah,
how
you're-
Josuke is
you're
15,
funny.
right? Like,
Yeah.
it's like that.
Or
Uh,
Giorno, yeah.
Yeah, or Giorno, exactly. So they're in high school, and his childhood friend Taiju says that he really is ready to tell this girl Yuzahira that he is in love with her, because apparently he just has been forever and hasn't been able to say it. And then right before he gets the chance, all of humanity gets turned to stone in a gigantic cataclysmic event that every human on Earth is turned into stone. The majority of humans lose their consciousness because it's like cars floating through space. Like you're just trapped in this nightmare world. But Senku keeps his consciousness alive by, I believe, counting every second for like 3,000 years or something outrageous like that.
Which is just the most anime bullshit
Oh,
ever.
complete like Tony Stark bullshit. And then
I do
Taiju
like it
keeps his
in contrast
senses-
with Taiju's. Yeah,
Yeah.
I do like it in context of how Taiju does it.
Yes, which is just raw, really loving Yuzahira a lot, is how he
Yes.
manages to keep his consciousness.
That's like the typical anime
Yes.
shit. Like,
Yes.
oh my god, I love her so much that I'm gonna will myself to. Like, my thing is, I don't know, I don't understand how none of them just don't go insane. Like,
Yeah, like solitary confinement, which is essentially what these people are subjected to, makes you go insane in like a week.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just like their brain just shuts off because it's been so long that they don't even think anymore, and then when they wake up, they just start again. I don't know, but
yeah, I mean, I would buy it more if it was like he went into like a hibernation and the only thing that kept him from like not dying was some deep down subconscious desire that kept him hanging on, like kind of like a coma or something like that.
Right.
In the manga, you get like narration where he's like, "I'm gonna sit here and I'm just gonna love the shit out of you, and it's gonna keep me alive."
and somehow
Which,
it does.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't know what it is. Like, from what I understand, like everyone hated Taiju, and it makes me super sad because I am really into Taiju and that whole thing. Like, what's his name? Senku's whole thing of like counting the seconds the entire time. That I'm just like, really, that's completely ridiculous. But Taiju's like, I'm just gonna love my girlfriend and it's gonna keep me sane for 3,000 years. That has me like, oh, I want this guy to live so bad. Come on, bring him back.
They're both like ridiculously impressive mental feats, and they're both completely like tonally different. Like one is like passion and desire, and the other is just like, yeah, I'm really fucking smart.
Yep.
which is such a good dichotomy. Like that's such a
Yeah.
good pair of like characters to put together, and then later developments that I'm sure Zen will get into will happen.
Yeah. So Taiju gets out of the stone, and it's way in the future. All of civilization has basically decayed, and he finds a little message carved into some wood that shows him where Senku is, because Senku has already broken out. And the year is, what is it, 5,700, somewhere around there. So it's been an insane amount of time. And they start planning to rebuild civilization, and they create a little miracle potion that's forget what it's called, but it's a naturally occurring thing they can use to break out of the stone together. And they're gonna go free Yuzahira so he can finally tell her how much he loves her. And then there's some fucking lions just come out and start getting ready to fuck their shit up.
It sounds like you're making
'Cause-
this up as you go along.
I know it
The-
sounds
the-
absurd.
The important thing though is that like the animals, all of them except sparrows, they're all fine. Like it's just humans and sparrows. Those are the only two things that were affected by this stone
Yes, which is
bullshit.
very
Right.
strange. Very strange.
Extremely.
And just to clarify, we still don't know what happened with that. They have not got. Yeah, I'm completely caught up, and they still haven't talked about that. So I have no insight on that.
I was actually gonna ask you about that, so I have questions. I'm sure we'll get to it later when we get to the back end of this podcast, because there is a little more information, sort of, that we get there. But I'm curious to see if anything else has popped up about it at all. But anyway, continue on.
Right. So they're gonna get fucking killed by lions, and so they break out Tsukasa instead, who is the super strong high schooler who literally beats the shit out of these lions. And the lions fuck
Barehanded,
off.
like, he is-
Barehanded, yeah.
He wakes up naked after 3,000 years and is like, "Fuck these lions."
The very first thing he does is beats the shit out of a couple of lions.
The only way it could be manlier is if he literally slapped them with his dick.
Pretty much, yeah. This is some serious manly shit. Remember, this is like the Stone Age, hence the symbology of Dr. Stone, whatever. So he literally just bare hand ass beats the shit out of these two lions. Then he joins up with them and he says, "Well, I'll protect you guys from now on." But then you kind of find out he's super traumatized because he thinks adults are giant sacks of shit, and so that only young people should be revived. And they have a bit of a disagreement on that. And he attempts to murder Senku and doesn't know a fact about the depetrification process that Senku does know, which he exploits to fake his own death, and then that's kind of where the plot really gets started.
Takes off.
Yeah, I think
It's kind of
that's
like
where,
a race to restart civilization.
right, because you have Tsukasa on one side who he believes in might makes right and adults fucking suck, so he's going around and breaking statues to kill the adults inside of them. And then
Which, to be
Senku-
fair, like about half of that is correct.
he's not entirely wrong. And then Senku on the other side is all about science and progress, and he wants to save every single human. He wants to bring everybody back. And so it's a race to find out whose ideology is right for a long time, basically.
And you may have noticed that Taiju sort of fell out of that description of what's going
Yeah.
on, and
Yeah, so Taiju and Yuzukira, who are both back, in order to make it seem like Senku really is dead, Senku sends them off to go stay with Tsukasa to be like his people on the inside. And
but in reality, this is all about popularity contests.
yes, so from what I understand, I guess I never fully verified this information, so I don't know if it's the same as like a Frieza was supposed to be the end of Dragon Ball type thing. But supposedly Tsukasa and Yuzuriha did not test super well. From what I understand, people really did not like them very much. And so they got more or less, despite starting off as like a trio of protagonists, they get more or less written out very quickly.
Which is incredibly sad to me because, like, I feel
Wait,
like
you mean
Taiju is.
You mean Taiju, right?
Taiju and Yuzuriha
Yeah.
both do, yeah.
Yeah, Taiju and Yuzukira.
Yeah. I
Yeah, they
really
just
wish that
disappear.
Taiju hadn't been, because I really like him. I don't know if it's just that I am just the most basic bitch, which is accurate, probably given my general anime tastes. But like, I really enjoyed his presence and the interactions between him and Senku. They were just very charming. The way that I think of it is that it's like if Sasuke and Naruto were actually friends instead of just like we're told they're friends, and despite the fact that they're constantly trying to murder one another.
Right. And it's interesting because they do come back eventually, but Taiju has like jack fuck to do when they come back. When Yuzuriha comes back, she's actually extremely important. She's
I mean,
like
that's like
majorly important to the plot when she comes back, and Taiju
That's
just
probably a
doesn't do it.
consequence of the progression of like Senku's whole civilization of science. Like once you get to a certain point, there's not much for people like Taiju to do. Actually,
The only
like
thing that I remember him doing is plowing the fields.
I actually completely I agree with that because I feel like if Taiju had stuck around, they could have done a lot to like increase his character, kind of give him stuff to do and build him up as a character and let him like learn and evolve as a person. But because he gets just railroaded out for so long, it forces him into this situation where like he's still stuck back in the Stone Age where we've already progressed to like we're making medicine and we've got like glass chemicals and all that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, I think I personally the highlight of the series so far for me, and I mean, I guess aside from Senku because he's got the most screen time, so to speak, is probably Tsukasa. Like from the jump when Tsukasa's introduced, he's so fascinating to me. Like the way he comes out, and I mean, he pulled at my heartstrings really early when he like picked up the lion and was like, "I killed this thing," and even if it doesn't taste very good, like we'll use every bit of it that we can. And I was like, oh man, that's my Toriko shit. He's on it. And then
There,
he started to like step closer to the whole villain shit, and there was all that good like social commentary that he was tossing out. He was like, oh, if we revive everybody, like they're gonna start charging us rent and making us pay taxes. And I was like, hell yes, comrade. Talk that truth. Talk that truth, dude.
I think the part for me that really got to me with him was the moment where you kind of see like what would have happened if he had been a part of him and Taiju and Senku and Yuzahira's whole group, like from the beginning, and how they could have been really good friends. And I really felt that because I feel like he was a big part of what was missing from the dynamic there. Because I feel like if Taiju had not had his pacifist streak, I think he would have been a lot more popular than he was. I feel like that was the big thing that was really holding him back as a character.
Yeah, I can see that because I mean, it's Naruto, but he also doesn't punch people. So I mean, a lot of people would be like, "What the fuck is he even for?"
Right, exactly. He
Yeah.
feels like he very much doesn't have a purpose in this world, and then you immediately introduce a guy who has all of his skills and also punches lions to death with his bare hands.
Yes. And he's also
A
quite a
true
bit
alpha.
smarter than Taiju because Tsukasa, like, he's the muscular guy, but he's not dumb.
No, not
He's
by a long shot. Like, like Senku at one point gives him this whole like minute-long speech of like, okay, this is how you make the whole reviving people from stone thing, and it's enough that he can just like, okay, yeah, I got all that. Like, if someone spouted that whole speech to me, I would forget immediately, like 3/4 of it, and just be like, yeah, sure, I got that, yeah.
exactly.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So
you put them in this cave and it brings them back. Gotcha.
we stopped at an interesting point. Well, I know the cutoff was chapter 40 for us. I think you both went to 45.
Yeah, we did.
I stopped right at 45.
Yeah, because right after this is when the conflict with Tsukasa really starts getting underway.
I was about to say, like, I sort of felt like he disappears for a long time. Like, there's a good probably 20 chapters of this where he's just not really a factor in what's going on, and that's fine because we really have to. Yeah, we really have to establish this village, which I'm excited to kind of get to because there's a lot of stuff I really like in there. But he sort of disappears, and I'm excited to when we come back to this at some point to read more of what's going on with him.
Yeah. So he definitely does fall out for a bit because he doesn't really give a shit about the village because he thinks Senku is dead. And he
Right.
thinks that Senku is the only threat to him being able to do anything because a bunch of primitive people in a village don't matter. But 45 is like right. I intentionally left at a cliffhanger right there because that's at the point where it comes out that Senku is not dead and shit starts hitting the
Right.
fan really hard.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, let's talk about the village a little bit. So after the fake death, and we find out that the act of depetrifying somebody heals them. So you come out of stone, no matter how little it is, and then if you're injured, it will restore you to normal. It does. They don't touch on how. All we know is that it does it. So
Right,
that's how.
and even Senku is like, this is weirdly beneficial. Like, it seems as though this is probably not a natural thing because if it were, this would not be this kind to us.
Right, right. And
And what do
it
they
went from
call it?
an apocalyptic event to, oh my god, this heals everything. This
What do they call that special rock? What do they call that? The petrification.
did they call it something special?
They literally call it Dr. Stone.
No, they call.
Oh, dude.
I thought that was why they called Senku that.
No, no.
Oh.
There's a part, unless I misread it, where they're talking about it like saving Senku, and they're like, yeah, it has restorative properties.
Oh, I do
Doctor
remember that.
Stone.
I do remember that,
And I was
which
like,
is
wait, is
hilarious.
that why it's called this?
It is sort of why it's called that.
Yeah, it's like a two-handed thing.
Yeah. I think they also call soap a Doctor Stone at some point. Fairly certain they do that. Um,
Call
but
him
they
Dr.
call
Slump.
shit everything because a lot of this series is Senku blowing people's minds and being like, yeah, this shit does this.
I'm
Which
so
personally I like a
fucking
lot.
smart.
Yeah.
Which he is, like, he actually, one thing I like about Senku is that he at several points is kind of like, I'm not really that smart, and I'm just like, motherfucker, you counted for 37,000 years, like, what the hell are you talking about? You still remember all this science bullshit, and you're just like, nah, I'm not that smart, it's not a big deal. No, you are a Tony Stark level absurd genius.
Oh
All
yeah.
that stuff where it was like, Tony Stark built this in a cave, well, he had a whole terrorist organization helping him out, you've got nothing, and you still built like fucking antibacterial,
This man
save you
is
medicine.
he is on his Minecraft shit on the next
Yes.
one.
And that is
He's
a
got
huge
diamond.
draw of the series.
It's really entertaining watching a guy be super fucking smart for like, and they don't even bother. Like, oh, it's because he got superpowers when he was young, or oh no, it's just he's fucking smart. Like that's it. He sucks at
He's just-
everything else except he's really fucking smart, and that's
And-
really refreshing.
And that really helps a lot, that he really does suck at so much other stuff. Like he is clearly weak in a time where it is not a good thing to be a weak person, at least relatively speaking to the other characters in the series.
Well, yeah, he even
And
says that to Taiju, right? He's like, just trying to, just surviving, I mean, this was in the anime too, in the first episode. He says, like, doing the bare minimum to survive, like, takes a full day. Like, I don't have enough, motor skill or strength or anything.
And man, I wish Taiju was back here. That they kind of replace him with Chrome. Chrome kind of becomes his second in command, Senku's second in command. And I like Chrome a lot more than I did at the start. Over the course of these episodes, you get a lot of the heart of that character, and I really enjoy more of him. But at the same time, I just can't help but wonder what Taiju would be if he had been allowed to develop more than he was. Because there's a lot of, I feel like the creator of this came into this story with a cool idea for these two characters, and then this other guy just kind of got kicked out, and it was just like, oh, I had all these plans.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he kind of just dips. I mean, it could be like that later on he gets a lot more to do or something like that, but it just kind of seems like you had this really interesting dynamic of like a really strong guy with a good, moral compass and a sense of, self, and a genius who has like zero social skills and any kind of, and they're like dynamic, the two of them playing off each other is like super interesting. Even in the anime, like I think it was done really well, it was voiced really well. They had like, it felt like they were in the same room talking to each other when they were doing lines, because like it just felt so natural. Like I thought they had a really good relationship, and it's just weird that like they're like, okay, well, bye, like
because like he goes into this whole like depth of these characters and like how they were good friends. Like I feel like in a lesser anime, this is something Zen brought up to me on Twitter, but I feel like in a lesser anime, these two would have been like, oh, you're gonna take the science route, well, I'll take the brute strength route, and we'll become friendly rivals and we'll fight and shit. No, these two have like the best bromance going on. These two like love each other in a really awesome way, and then it's like, okay, well, I guess I'll see you in like 6 months maybe.
But oddly enough, I don't, outside of Taiju not being there, I don't mind that much. Like I still really like what happens. I still think it's really cool. Yeah.
Senku definitely is the big draw of this series. Like I like Taiju a lot, but Senku is just such a huge like personality and so unusual and so fucking funny. Like he's got some amazingly hilarious lines.
Dude, he's got
in this story.
He's got some bangers. He's my king. He's talking to the way this man talks to women is fantastic.
What's your type? I like the type that can put a lot of oxygen into an iron forge.
Yeah. Then the one lady's like, I think I've fallen for you, and he's like, you fuck. You had to go and say some real annoying shit. Told that bitch to shut up.
Yes.
I love him so. I said it to Zen. I was like, I love this guy. He's amazing.
Yeah, Senku
I
is
really
great.
do. I feel like I'm what's the name of the girl that is like super
Kohaku?
awesome at fighting? Yeah. I really hope that she and Senku like eventually get to that point where they're like, okay, Senku's like, all right, I'm not gonna say this around anyone who might overhear me, but because I can't let my dear science overhear that I might have a mistress, but if I had a second love, it would be you. But we're still not ever going to talk about that. But I am now rooting for her, even though I don't know that she's actually into him. It feels like she was really into him like when they first met, and they backed off on that a lot, which I kind of appreciate because I think that's a fun dynamic as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, I can ruin that for you right now if you want me to.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
They do not. Not yet, anyway.
Damn.
Not yet, anyway.
Oh,
So
well, okay.
I kind of like
is there
their...
someone else that is like, all right, now I'm banging this chick, or now I'm banging Senku?
Nope, no banging. There's zero banging.
Then my ship is not sunk.
That's true. They're floating out somewhere. It could happen.
Hey, I have been shipping Beast Boy and Terra, Beast Boy and Raven for like 20 years at this point. I can hold out.
Terra died, but
she does, but she comes back and then they ended the
okay.
series.
All right, that's fair.
She's back in Young Justice.
That doesn't count. That's not the same thing. That's an entirely different continuity.
Fair enough.
Anyway.
So I like Senku and Kohaku's dynamic actually a lot because they start out and she definitely looks like she's gonna be the, oh my god, this main character guy, just fucking mount me right now. And then very quickly she starts losing that immediate level of respect because Senku is just like physically helpless. And she ends up having to help him a lot too. And then they kind of develop this like, as it goes on, and obviously Senku is basically like Jesus to these people because he's doing these things and they have no idea how they can do it, and yet he's completely
it's essentially
inept.
Magic.
Yeah, it's effectively magic, and he's completely inept at the things that they're good at. They develop this really strong respect for one another that is not in any way like, oh, I really respect who you are as a hero, but also I'm really conflicted about how bad I want to suck your dick, so we can't talk at all, kind of thing. They just have like a genuine mutual respect for one another that's not at all built on how badly they want to fuck each other.
Which is great. Like that is to me what an actual good like friendship or romance in a story like thrives on.
Well,
if you can't see these people like being friends, it doesn't work for me.
I think he's got the genius, like I don't want to call it a cliche. That feels like a negative word, but like the genius cliche of like love and sex and shit, like just not being on his radar like at all.
That's very much a trope.
Few little gags, like I really like seeing that because it's very realistic. Where it's like it seems like some shit he would say where he would just be like, yeah, I don't really need love because I love science. Like he would say some shit like that because this man is like constantly in his science bag and he has no time for like anything else. And it's just like I feel like him falling head over heels for some chick right out of the gate would be really out of character.
Right.
This isn't something that's related to him on a like romantic level, but one thing that I do love about Senku is that he is constantly on his science is everything thing, but occasionally, just every now and then, something will push through that, and you'll see that no, he isn't just a super genius robot monster. He is like actually a human being. Like there's moments where you find out some stuff that happened to a character from the past. Do we want to spoil what happened in the last 5 chapters of this?
Go ahead.
Okay. Like he finds out that his dad his dad was an astronaut, and long story short, being an astronaut was enough to keep him from being turned to stone, and so he came back to Earth and started this whole village with the other astronauts. And which I question if they had enough genetic diversity to actually keep a group of people going for 3,700 years, but that's neither
I'll
here
leave
nor
that
there.
question to the mathematicians.
Exactly. Like in a normal story, I wouldn't question that at all. But in one that is this science based, I'm like, I don't think that's enough. I think that you've got a lot of incest potatoes in there. Anyway,
Maybe
So
they
um,
maybe they all like communally bang so that like
that's why they're all idiots.
that's why that's why all the
maybe
villages
that's what
I
it
suck.
is.
mean,
Yeah.
that's why it's been 3,000 years and they only came up with spears. Like they're so backwards.
Anyway, but like there's a moment where you see him go to his dad's grave, or well, yeah, it's his dad. Enough. He goes to his dad's grave, and like as soon as what is it, Ruki? Is that her name?
The
Uh,
priestess? Yeah, I
yeah, the
believe that is
priestess girl.
Ruki.
Yeah, as soon as Ruki leaves and leaves him alone, like up until then he was talking
Ruri,
all this good
sorry.
shit about like
Ruri. Close.
Ruri. Leaves. You know, he's talking all this good shit while she's still there. Of like, nah, I'm completely okay with this. You know, he was awesome, and I'm glad that he started this village and was helpful to me and all that. But you know, science marches on, and I will be okay. But as soon as she's gone, he's just like you get a couple frames of him crying, and it's like, oh, he is a person, and those are always things that really endear me to a character when they've got this like overwhelming sense of like I have this purpose but I'm still a person inside. It's something similar to when we did Hinamaru. Like Hinamaru will talk a good game of like, no, it's cool. We all did our best and it's awesome. And you know, we lost, but it's okay in the end. And then everyone's gone and he's like, you know, he's tearing up because like, dang it, I lost.
Right. Yeah, Senku's good because this kind of touches back on the Tony Stark thing, but like he's very much the ace through pretty much all of the story. Whenever there's a problem, he either can solve it immediately or he's knows what to do to solve it quickly. But unlike like a Tony Stark kind of character, Senku really feels limited by his limitations, right? Like he doesn't have Iron Man armor, you know. So when they have to go get these things, he's forced to rely on other people to get him what he needs to do all of these kind of things. So I don't know.
I
I
mean,
like
he
that
even says as
he
much
has this
too,
like
which
immense
I like.
confidence and like ability and talent, but he can't do it by himself, and he's not like super cliche anime like I'm gonna do it anyway, you know, don't trouble yourself or I don't need anyone. Like he's completely fine with needing people, and he's more
I
than
mean,
willing to say go do this.
there's even a part where he's like fully prepared to like I guess die in a sense. Like he's about to go off in search of something really dangerous, like with a percent chance to not make it back, and he's like ready to do that just for a chance to advance like his civilization. And there's a lot of other like genius, you know, super scientific Einstein type characters that probably wouldn't do that for some sort of like self worth or being so self absorbed that they think they can't die. Like he's not like that.
You talking about when they go through the poison gas?
Yeah, to get like the sulfur
Such a good
oxide
part.
or whatever.
Such a
Yeah,
good part. Because that brings me
I
to a
mean
couple
I
other characters that I really like. Because the village at first is pretty much the Kohaku and Chrome show because they're the only ones that trust him. But
oh yeah, Chrome almost feels like a Taiju replacement.
he's 100%. They're both the Taiju and Yuzahiro replacement, pretty much.
He's like a reskin of that character.
More or less, they even
Yeah,
kind of look similar. Like
Hmm.
if
they
here's what,
do. Like
yeah, Chrome definitely is more or less a Taiju replacement because he's like Taiju personality wise, but then he's more geared toward the brain than the brawn also. So he's more fitting to like be Senku's sort of apprentice type thing. Um,
Which
but
I'm kind of iffy on how I feel about that dynamic because I feel like you know Taiju and Senku were so different that it made them interesting to see them together, and you kind of wonder how they'll develop. But it feels like Chrome is kind of going to be relegated to being like, oh, that's super awesome that you thought of that, Senku. You know that kind of thing. And he's got some cool emotional moments, especially when they were going to go get the acid from that lake. That was really fun. And he's got some really cool moments in the tournament, but like I wonder how he will develop in the future.
did you guys read up to the point that he builds the water wheel?
No.
no.
So Chrome definitely comes off that way at first, like, oh my God, Senku, you're just this awesome super dude. He does very much start taking charge and doing shit on his own eventually.
That's good. Okay,
Uh,
that's definitely good to hear.
yeah, he gets hit
Um,
with this point where he realizes he can't just rely on Senku to do everything forever, and he needs to start doing things on his own. And there's a really
Okay.
great part where they're working on, I think they're working on the generating electrical power, and Senku's working his ass off to get all the parts together, and it's just too much for him to do by himself. And then you come out and you find out that Chrome almost by himself built a functioning water wheel without even really knowing what it was, because he had just reasoned from what he had already
Nice.
learned that by rotating the wheel from the generation of the water, from the movement of the water, he could generate power that way. And that's his first big like stepping out of Senku's shadow and learning how to do things on my own moment, and it's a really good moment. He gets a big praise
Cool.
speech by Senku. That's nice.
I'm glad for that because like I it is it when he first showed up, I was completely against Chrome just because he was such an obvious replacement for a character that I liked and felt got the short end of the stick. But the further I got in, the more I was like, okay, you're winning me over a lot, and it's good to hear that he will have good evolution as a character moving forward.
Yeah, Chrome gets a lot of Chrome and Kohaku don't get the the Taiju Yuzahira treatment. They grow a lot as the series goes on.
Good.
Um, they also kind of ship them together, kind of a little bit. The author does. They have their flirty moments. The two of them do. It, it's vague how much of it is teasing and how much of it isn't, because Chrome is very much into Kohaku's sister.
Right.
Yeah. But there's the little
I
moment
wonder if it is.
where Kohaku says,
Go
"Well, we're identical. We look just like each other. So what's the problem?"
ahead. That is interesting because again, Kohaku seemed like she was into Senku a lot right at the beginning. So like I I'm curious to see how that whole dynamic between all of these characters will develop. Um, but there are some other side characters in this village that I really love, and one that I hope gets more to do, but I have not seen much from so far, despite how much I love him, is the old craftsman dwarf type dude.
Yeah, that
Yes,
guy's raw.
he is great.
he he is hilarious
He
because
is
like
fantastic.
he shows up and he's like all tied up and they're like I've come, they've forced me to come see your stupid magic and I don't want to, but fine, I'm out here, show me what you got. And then Senku shows him that he has started creating glass, and this guy has never seen anything like this, but because he's got so many skills developed over being an old having been a craftsman his whole life and like creating lacquer shields and that kind of thing, he just looks at this as like, all right, I'm in. And he like flexes and busts out of the ropes
Yeah,
like a superhero, and he is muscled just like a Greek god, and it's hilarious to
I
me.
get like All Might vibes out of him, of just like
Yes.
the somber, like quiet character, and then he just explodes into like enthusiasm and muscles. And that's his Kaseki is his name, by the way. He is fantastic. There's not a lot of characters I don't like. Like I wanted to bring up Kinro and Ginro, the brothers, the Spear brothers.
Oh, okay. I these two felt like they could have been very, very like sideline characters that just were like, okay, yeah, we need someone to fill this role. But I really like the development they got just in the area that I read. Especially like I would say especially Kinro, but actually Ginro really started to grow on me a lot through the tournament.
Yeah, so Ginro, he's your stereotypical coward character that steps up when he needs to. But I think his best moment is that like he's not your trope of like, yeah, I'm a coward, but now that I stepped up, I'm always gonna be there for you. He's still a giant coward and a huge selfish asshole, like all the time.
Which definitely comes up in the tournament arc. Like as soon as this whole situation evolves where he suddenly has the opportunity to like have all this like sort of he basically has the opportunity to have a super hot wife and control the village, and he's like, wait a minute, I was going to be on your side, but now
Now that I realize
It's
I
like,
could be on my side.
yeah, wow, that sounds pretty good. I'm just gonna do that. Like,
Yeah.
that's what that was. Like, I actually really liked that. I didn't even expect it either. Like, when she was like, yeah, sure, and like he just went with it. I was like, man, what? Like,
Yeah, well,
This
because
is
he
so
already had
good.
his redemption moment where he overcomes his fear and he saves them from the gas, and so generally, like in a regular show, you're like, oh, okay, he's on the team now. You know, he's the next team member, and then he's completely willing to fuck everybody over just because he can benefit from it.
Wait, I could have control of the village and a super hot wife? Nah, fuck you guys. I'm going for that. He is hilarious to me. But I also genuinely love is it Kinro? Is he the other one?
Kinro is the good brother. Yes. Well, I say good. Like Ginro's not a bad guy. He's just an asshole. Kinro is
His
the super like military like motivated guy.
rules are super important. Yeah. Like I love his moment where so his whole thing is that like he is all about these rules and he's kind of agreed that like okay, so there's a tournament to determine who will be chief of the village and there's this super asshole dude that is clearly the best fighter and under normal circumstances would just wipe the floor with everyone and win. But Kinro like steps up and has this awesome fight with the guy and there's a really great moment where it turns out that he's nearsighted and that has been like messing up his ability to fight and through a series of events he gets some glasses essentially and he starts just whipping the shit out of the guy but there's a moment where they all look at him, oh god, he's got this weird melon on his head that is letting him see and it is horrifying to look at. Like he just looks super creepy and it's hilarious.
I thought it was
so badass.
Yeah, like the way he catches the spear and is like holding it, like he looks so cool. Like I sent it to you guys and I was like, wait, this guy is the GOAT. Like he's so dope.
It's sort of like that moment when like Gohan like takes off some of the Super Saiyan Man armor stuff and like suddenly you realize, oh shit, he looks cool as fuck in this.
Yeah.
Right.
Like,
but what I like about this moment a lot too is that like in comparison to Dragon Ball, you know, he's not even a Gohan. He's like maybe Krillin level. Yeah.
Yes.
But he becomes super important because he's the character that they need to accomplish this task because Kohaku, for whatever reason, is not allowed to fight.
Right.
She gets
She disqualifies herself trying to. Okay, so there's this adorable little girl that runs around with a melon on her head most of the time, and it's because she is also like super nearsighted, and like the melon helps her because it like narrows the vision, like the amount of light that goes into her eyes. It makes sense in context. The melon helps her see a little bit better. And she just runs around with this thing on her head all the time. And they eventually like fit the glasses in. But before this whole tournament starts, the evil guy's like shitty little Iago henchman runs off and is like, haha, she is drowning. Someone needs to go and help her. Clearly this is not a lie.
He's not Iago. He's like who's the guy in Beauty and the Beast?
Gaston?
Oh.
No. Okay, so
Gaston's
is
little butt boy.
Yeah, his little fucker. Yeah.
Yes, I know exactly who you're talking about. That guy.
That's
That
the
is
guy.
exactly who it is. Because Magma is 100% Gaston. Like that is a super accurate comparison. But anyway, like his little butt boy, he runs off and is like, this little girl is clearly drowning. Someone must go save her. I cannot do it. I just ran here to tell everyone to help because reasons. And Kohaku is like, all right, there's a 99% chance that he is lying, but on that 1% chance, I've got to go and try to save this little girl. And it's super endearing when she gets back and she's lost her fight because she wasn't there to be there at the right time. But she's like, I don't give a shit about that. I'm just super happy that this little girl didn't drown.
Yeah. And so they lose one of their fighters because Kohaku already could beat Magma by herself. But
Their best fighter, by far.
Right. And so she gets sidelined. And so that leaves Magma as the best fighter in the competition, and they're forced to rely on Kinro, who up to this point has been like training with Kohaku, but not getting it because he can't see. Well,
right.
He can't see very well. So it's such a good moment where he's like getting his shit rocked, and the little girl who comes back with Kohaku throws him her melon that has the eyeglass lenses in it, and he just starts beating his ass.
Yes.
So good.
I love that moment where it's like, as it turns out, I was actually so much better than you from the beginning, and now I'm just even. Like he's just got such good lines in that fight.
All
and
he
then it's
needed
super
to
sad.
win was glasses. That's like my favorite part. Like
as someone nearsighted, this was very, very near to my heart.
Yeah, you
like,
probably feel super vindicated. Like, oh,
you
dude,
have no idea.
all I need are my glasses, and then I can beat up any
I
meathead.
can do anything.
That's right.
As long as I have my glasses.
That is my mindset. As long as I have my glasses, I am Superman. I am undefeatable.
That's a good way to
He's on
look at it.
some he's on some Velma shit. He was like, I can't see a thing without my glasses. And they like just hand him.
I love that moment where like they take the melon off the little girl's head, and at first she looks super cute, and then like she does this weird like super deformed face, and it's because she's squinting so hard trying to see. Like that,
Yeah.
I just understood that at a super deep level, to be honest. That is me every time I lose my glasses.
So, what do you guys feel
But-
about Gen?
I am very curious to see where he goes in the future, because I feel like he's this Gin is this super trickstery character. He's got this whole mentalist thing going on where he like understands human psychology really well and manipulates it a lot. And I really like him as a factor in the story, because he feels like someone who could genuinely go any direction at any moment, but he doesn't feel random. He is just someone who is very obviously out for his own interests and will back whatever party is going to give him his interests at any moment. And I like that a lot as a force of sort of chaos in the story.
I think he's a cocky little shit.
Thanks, Zebra.
Yeah, and I don't know if like I've seen enough of him to think he's any more than just an idiot who is just an unapologetic turncoat. Like he basically says, yeah, I'm gonna back the winning side no matter what, which I can totally respect. That's fine. But
At least he's upfront about it. Like if he wasn't upfront about it, that would be very different.
yeah, but when he's like flexing his like mental power, like his mentalist abilities, the only time he really does it is on an idiot. Like,
That is true.
It doesn't. Like a guy who believes in magic and sorcery, he like tricks him with like his advanced psychology skills, which like I'm pretty sure any of us could do. So it just doesn't seem like super earned or anything. It just seems like he's kind of a dope who is also kind of creepy and could betray you at any time. But I like his whole arc with like the soda or whatever, and his like relationship with Senku is really cool. Like they have a kind of like mutual
understanding.
Yeah, I don't want to say respect, but they have something going on where they kind of seem to understand each other, and like
Well,
I think
they're the only people from before the Flash that
right.
so they can relate to one
point,
another on a
right.
level that the villagers can't. So that's interesting that's how you feel about him, because I kind of felt the same way, where I was kind of like, well, fuck this, slimy dude. For a while, he becomes very important.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
interested to see that.
I mean, I can generally, if you read enough of these like shonen manga, like you can tell someone's importance to the plot just by their design.
Yeah, how dramatic.
This guy has strange hair. He will show up again.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's kind of it, and like the way that the artist like draws certain panels of certain characters with like those like really detailed up close like pages. Like Gen has like 7 of them in like the first 5 chapters he's introduced. So it just seems like the creator like really wants to nail it home that he's gonna be like a recurring presence.
Yeah,
I don't.
I would say right now in the series, he is probably behind only Senku and Kohaku in terms of how major he is.
Yeah,
Wow.
the only thing I'm worried about, and don't confirm or deny, just kind of, because I don't really want to know if I'm right or wrong, but I am worried that like he will constantly be flip-flopping on either side, and that's gonna like really wear on me as like a person that I can't stand that. Like I'm a double agent. Like I was on this side, but now I'm on this side, and it's just like I can't stand shit like that sometimes.
I feel like that will be very dependent on how many sides there are, because I'm curious to see. So, I've forgotten his name now. The guy who is leader of the other tribe, the like super badass dude. What's his name?
Tsukasa?
I'm sorry.
Tsukasa?
Yeah, Tsukasa. It is very. I think like whether or not Gin is constantly flip flopping will be very impacted by how all of that falls out, because like I feel like if Tsukasa's village is like defeated and sort of subsumed into Senku's, I wonder if it will be possible for there to be another tribe or anything out there to cause that kind of conflict where he could be on a different side. Because it feels like this is a very limited world in terms of how many people are actually out there, you know?
That is also a good point. I encourage you both to keep reading because I think a lot of your questions will get answered. I'll tell you that much. I won't tell you
That's good.
anything about it, but everything that you just discussed will be explored.
Yeah, I mean, I
Cool.
honestly I've been loving it. Like, it's really, really good. I've
I
been
agree.
very surprised because I usually need a lot of action or like some kind of. I mean, I'm a meathead. Like, I self-identified. I mean, I really like battle manga. Um, I really like fighting and all of that stuff, and like heavy world building and a lot of different characters. And this is like a complete change of pace. Even though it's like technically the same demographic, it feels like a completely different
I
like
think the thing
experience.
that makes it so engaging is there is a constant sense of forward progress. Like even though like this is you could basically break this whole thing into like stuff they did before they joined this tribe and stuff they've done after this tribe. Senku is constantly driving things forward and pushing things forward and
Yeah,
evolving in sort of what he has as stuff. So something you brought up earlier was Minecraft, and it has that same sense of progression of like, okay, now I have this tool, I can go do this thing because I have this tool, and
it
I think
never
that
feels
really gives it so much momentum.
it never feels unearned too. Like it always feels like completely justified. Like, oh well, they got this, so now that they actually can do this, like he knows how to make this, then they can move on and do this, and like everything's
Right.
mapped out for you very clearly. And
And it's
even
because
when
of
it's
how
like
much effort he has to throw into getting even stuff that feels like it should be super simple. Like he has to work really, really hard just to get iron, for example.
exactly, and I mean like the weird thing about like the pacing is like the pacing is really good, but what's weird about it is like the journey to make glass was probably like 6 chapters, 7 chapters, but it felt like 20, and not in a bad way. Not in a bad way, just like it felt like they really had to work, and like it
Yes,
felt like so
exactly.
much happened, and it didn't feel like it dragged, but it felt like it was a really long battle. And when they finally like created glass, like okay, we can make glass now. Okay, but we don't know how to shape it because we're not good at shaping it. Okay, now we have to like, and it's just like something always needs to be done. Like there's never like okay, we can just relax now. Like they always have to keep trying to innovate.
Yeah, something is always on the horizon that is like forcing them to evolve to the next level.
Yeah, it
And
feels like a
it's
race against time, I guess.
hmm
But like even though at this point currently it doesn't really feel like there's like a looming threat. It just feels like Senku is so motivated to like shoot up past, you know, 2 million years of human evolution. He just wants to skip over most of it. Like,
which is completely understandable.
yeah, I mean, for sure.
Yeah, we make some very serious jumps, science wise. On the point where we brought up with that you are surprised at how much you like the series because of how little action there is. I would argue there's a lot of action. It's just not combat.
Well, okay, well, yeah, but when I said fighting,
Okay,
like,
fair.
do you know what I
Um,
mean? Like,
yeah, but I
cause
wanna make the point that I feel like they're for a show that is ultimately, I guess, a series that is ultimately about just fucking making science, like making a
yeah,
forge to make metal and shit like that. Is that there's actually a lot of like tension and stress and
yeah,
action,
it's
and
a
like there's a
struggle.
lot of shit going on.
It
Yeah.
reminds me of like Yu-Gi-Oh, but without the like PvP aspect. Like it reminds me of like a very simple or mundane concept that is, turned deadly or threatening or more tense than it actually would be in real life. Because like, you watch like primitive technology YouTube videos, and that shit's not as intense as like, Senku trying to make glass in the middle of a forest. Has anyone here seen primitive technology, or did I just
I have not.
miss that?
Uh, is that the YouTube channel?
Yeah, the guy that makes like It's
I
basically
have been
Dr.
meaning to watch
Stone.
more of that so that I can like in
Yeah,
case some terrible thing happens, I'll have watched this YouTube thing and I'll pretend that I'll remember that well enough
yeah.
to do it.
It's basically like it's literally you know like the manga anime Netflix adaptation meme, like it's the Netflix adaptation of Dr. Stone. Like it's just a guy sitting in the woods like making forts and like making clay pots and all this crazy shit out of nothing. But like
That's awesome.
I mean that's basically what this is though, and like you know Japan has this weird way of making the weirdest stuff really interesting, like volleyball or you know sumo or whatever.
For
Like it
sure.
makes stuff that doesn't seem like super interesting on its face like way more intense, and it animeifies it, if you will. You know, it makes it very exciting, even though it's like you know watching the literal like it's watching paint dry. Like I mean, I don't
Right.
know. You know what I mean? Like that's what I
The
appreciate about it.
the only thing that has me concerned is it feels like it is advancing very rapidly in a lot of ways. And so something that I've noticed in like say Ark Survival or Minecraft is I will get to like sort of a midpoint, or you know what, the thing that is really I'm bad about is Civilization. Like I love those games when I'm in like the sort of Stone Age to Bronze Age type area. But as soon as I start getting like guns and things, I'm like, okay, I'm only kind of into this now. And I'm worried that like as the story progresses and they have more and more tools to work with, I will be less into it. But I think that the pacing, like you brought up, the way that they do such a good job of keeping things a struggle will keep me going. But you know, that still feels like a dynamic that could be there. But that could also just mean that the story doesn't outstay its welcome. So
I mean, if I had to guess, like something at some point during their journey up the evolutionary scale will halt their progress specifically. Like I feel like Tsukasa might actually like pull up and kind of make them have to stop, and you know they won't actually be able to progress any further. So maybe they're stuck
yeah,
in like I don't know the Bronze Age or the Iron Age for a
I
little
could see
longer
that.
than they
Yeah.
thought they would because they have to fight or something like that.
It's interesting that you brought up guns because that is a very early thing that Senku wants to do because again, that is when you sort of upset the physical balance at that point. Because the
Hmm.
big reason that Tsukasa is such a threat is just that he could be fucking kill you. He can
He
just beat
punches
you to death.
lions to death with his
Right.
bare hands.
Right. And
Yeah.
you know, like nowadays that's not the gap isn't the same because back there Senku doesn't even have like a knife. And even if you did it wouldn't make a difference. So that's
Right.
why very early on he says that we need to make gunpowder because
A
gunpowder
gun.
is the way that we can win.
Just pull out a fucking gun
Just
and
fucking shoot
shoot
him.
his ass.
Yeah, just fucking shoot him. And I don't know, I don't
I
remember if it comes up in the first 40 or not, but later on there is another portion where there's a huge like psychological struggle between the two sides of Senku trying to appear that they're farther along than they really are.
Oh,
Um,
okay, that's interesting.
to scare them off from attempting to move in. And it's
Hmm,
probably my favorite part of the series where he basically has to fake a gunshot to scare them into
that's
thinking,
really interesting.
shit,
Okay, I like
we
that.
can't
That's
fight them
cool.
now, and they run away. And it's a big it's sort of the lead up to the fighting, and it's really interesting how basically it's a big part of Senku going, if we fight, we will lose. So we have to trick them into thinking that we're stronger and bigger than we really are. We have to puff up and
intimidation.
scare them, right? Um,
I just can't stop thinking about when he's like in like the first 10 chapters when he's talking about making gunpowder to make guns. Like behind him, the image of like a modern day like pistol, like a 9mm handgun is just superimposed, and I can't stop thinking about that. Like he's just like we're just gonna like part of me is just like I wish it was a 12 chapter like series and Senku just made a gun
he
and
just
it was
gets the
just
gun and fucking shoots him.
he just digs up. He's just like, I had one buried in case like this ever happened. He just pulls out like a toolie and just blows Tsukasa away.
It's like he shoots the guy, and then the next page is just Senku on top of a pile of gold and women and
Yeah.
like food and all this shit.
It's science shit's for nerds.
he's in a fur coat, just like yeah.
Just with his
Got like
one
sunglasses on with like a lollipop in his mouth or something. He's just chilling. Got his feet up on Tsukasa's body. Like he's just. That's what
Oh
I
my
wanted to
God.
see.
Yes, I want to see that now.
I mean, I'm a big fan, honestly. I'm probably gonna keep reading.
Yeah, I'm excited for you guys to
at this
keep
point.
going because there's the point that I stopped you at was intentional, for hoping that you would want to see more of it after this. You're right before where conflict with Tsukasa really starts to begin, and it's the highest
This feels
point of
like
the
a
series, I
running
think.
theme in our show.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, you're right at the good point. Well, I think we all pick like cliffhangers.
Yeah,
or
the end of
less,
an arc
yeah.
is generally a cliffhanger in these stories because they also want you to keep reading very badly.
Right.
Right. Yeah. So we're right at the point where conflict really gets going, and I think you'll like the way that they approach it. It's interesting. You'll enjoy it. One thing that we didn't touch on, which I think is the only thing left, is Kohaku's sister and her overall importance to the story.
I
Other
love her.
than Ginro wanted to bang her really bad. That was
I
basically all we
I
talked
love
about
her.
with her.
She's great. I love her. I love her.
I
a lot.
am very curious to see where she will go now that she's been cured. And she was like, "Oh, I'm cured," and then is like turning
She
into
just
the Flash, and
booked
it's
it.
just like boosh.
Yeah, she literally booked it. Oh my God, that shit was so funny. She just was like,
It was super funny, but I was also questioning, like, okay, is pneumonia a thing that someone has for like their entire life? Because we've had all these flashbacks to like her and Chrome as kids, and him being like, "I will cure you no matter what," and I genuinely don't know, and I wouldn't even have these questions in a story that was not so science based and it feels very like, okay, this is clearly stylized, but it feels like it's very based in fact, you know?
Absolutely. And I also don't know, but I also don't know anything about pneumonia. So that's more on me than the writers. Maybe it is.
Well,
I have no
to
idea.
be honest, I'm very glad you don't know much about pneumonia because there's really only one would.
Right. Yeah, that's fair. Um, yeah, so I don't know. But she is the Oracle or whatever it is that they call her. And it turns out that being the Oracle just means that you remember a lot of little bullshit stories from Senku's dad. And I really liked that part. Because
Yes, because
she's
his
like
stories
this
were
shaman priestess, like holy woman, and her job is to interpret shit like from Senku's dad, like don't fuck with bears. Bears
yes,
will fuck your shit
a
up,
version
and that's part of her
of
job.
and a version of a very famous story that's in Japanese culture that basically translates to the story of Little Peach Boy. And it's this little kid normally who's like, you know, he's birthed out of a peach or something like that. But it's this version of him that's like super ripped, and he's like clearly a version of Kenshiro from Fist of the North Star, and he's got these awesome animals with him that are just look super badass. And even the character is like, those are not the usual animals. It's usually like a horse and like a bird. It's not like a tiger and a gorilla eating people. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah, it's great.
I literally can't. I'm trying to find like if you can grow up with pneumonia because it's bugging the shit out of me now.
I'm glad to have put that bug in your head.
Because I know after antibiotics are administered, it takes a while for like pneumonia to go away fully. Like there's still like lung damage and
Right.
all that. So like she actually technically wouldn't be able to book it. Like she.
Nope, you get it in this like super weird, like, oh yeah, this guy did used to draw porn pose, and then instantly it's you're perfectly cured and you're superhuman.
Oh really?
You didn't know that about him?
No.
Yeah, he's a hentai artist.
I feel like once you know about that about him, yeah, like if you look at a
It
few
all
panels in
makes
this, you can
sense.
definitely, yeah, it does. I had to spend most of the day the other day in the DMV, and I spent that day like reading this so I could keep catch up and be ready for this. But I kept having to be like, oh, gotta get past that page. No one look at my phone, please.
Oh my god, it's because he only does the artwork.
Right, he doesn't do the
Yeah.
story, he just does the art. Someone else does the story.
Oh no.
Which is
I think
why
I've
when
read some of
Kohaku is
these.
introduced, her head is on the ground and her feet are over her head. She's completely like flipped.
Oh
Or
my
like
god,
when
I
he's
have
giving
read.
Buri the medicine and she's literally in like a come in my mouth pose. Like there's no
Oh
reason for it.
no. I've
Yeah.
read some of these.
That's hilarious to
Woo!
me. Ah,
I
but
saw
to
the
be fair,
name on
like,
the wiki page. I was like, oh man, that rings a bell. That's
that is
unfortunate.
the best thing ever.
Oh
But
no, I'm a
no, like,
degenerate.
well, I mean, to be fair, like, this guy is an amazing artist. I feel like that's one thing that we not touched on enough of like how awesome the art is throughout this entire thing. It is gorgeous, like every single page. It's
That's
amazing to me.
so funny because somebody said that what's her name, Yuzuhira.
Yes.
Someone literally took a screenshot of her from the anime and they were like, this girl looks like she's from a hentai. And now it all makes sense. She
She
is.
basically is. Yeah.
Oh
The
god.
art is
I'm
absolutely
gonna
gorgeous
I
though.
have to send you guys a panel because I'm pretty sure like he just copy pasted her design. Oh no. Okay, back on topic. Back on topic.
Ah.
That's awful.
Oh, it's so good.
The art is incredible though. Like no cap, it is really really good. I especially like um whenever there are like these really close up panels on people's faces, like the detailing in their eyes and stuff
Like
is
those
really
moments when
good.
he's kind of giving you a new look into their character or something like that.
Yeah, I
Yeah, those are
really like the
solid.
way he draws eyes. Shit's insane.
Yeah, yeah.
I like also
Dude is nailing it.
his comedic art. It is he doesn't reuse like specific. You know, how every now and again a character will have like or an artist will have this is whatever Naruto, and then this is comedic scene Naruto, and they're always drawn the same way.
Yeah,
Where like joke Naruto is goofy, cartoony looking or whatever. I don't even know if there is a jokey looking Naruto. That's just the anime character example I was using.
Right.
like the thing in One Piece where they'll be like angry at Luffy and they'll all have like these super long fangs and yelling at him type of thing.
Yeah, and
Right,
they'll
yeah,
have like
like they have a
Spider-Man eyes.
go-to comedic look. He
Yeah,
all of his like comedy shots are different. He'll have
Yeah.
like different
There's a
faces and
really
these
good scene where
exaggerated crazy looks and it's
they're
great.
talking about the medicine and like they're like we have to make ammonia and they start peeing in the thing and she Kohaku's like
yes,
you're not gonna make her drink that, right? And like her face is so fucking funny, like the way her face is
yes.
drawn.
That whole chapter was hilarious because like the lead up to that was like, you've got this liquid that's going to make her go blind, and then you've got this other one that will turn her into a zombie, and then you've got this third one that will just melt her completely, and you're going to have her drink that. So good,
It's like,
so
no, we're
good.
gonna mix it all together to make medicine. And then he's like, but first we need ammonia. And she's like, how do you get that? And he's like, you don't want to know. And then it cuts to him and Chrome just pissing in the thing.
I like how I like how the original version was it was like because early on in the series, Senku draws out this roadmap to antibiotics, and the little thing that for that one was a dog peeing on a wall.
Yeah.
It was, and it may just be that I'm like 12 at heart, but that was hilarious to me.
No, the comedy is really good and like it manages to have funny moments out of like cuz like when we talked about the Iron Forge joke. That was such a good joke
Yes.
out of nowhere from one of what would normally be like a triumphant anime like guys, we did it. Yeah, moment. And he completely drops it. It's just like without killing the mood. It was great.
It's amazing. I'm still shocked by it, that I like right now. I tweeted that panel out, and I'm still getting retweets and likes on it.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite just one-shot gag lines in maybe anything.
Yes,
So
Senku
good.
is amazing.
Yeah, I think because like I do genuinely really love the series and like all of the stuff that it does, but Senku really does hold it all together in a
Yeah,
big
for
way.
sure.
You gotta push it more, dude. Push the agenda.
I'm,
Hop on.
hang on, I'm gonna actually find
He's
that
busy on
panel.
that JoJo ride.
Yeah, that's true. It's busy. JoJo doesn't need any help, man.
JoJo really doesn't need any
That's
help.
probably true.
I
Dr.
see.
Stone
I
might.
like that there's an anime for this series now because like there's an
More
anime
people
now,
are gonna
but like
give a shit about it.
that's gonna super also increase the amount of people who are like, whoa, fucking shit's overrated. Attack on Titan, and it's like I don't want to fucking shut up, idiot. I don't have time for this shit. Like fuck you.
Yeah,
Just watch
Ah.
the goddamn show. All right, hang on. I'm putting this shit
I
on the
mean,
screen for anybody who wants
it's
to see it. Here you go. This is the panel of the girls who can pump a lot of oxygen into an iron forge. Oh my god, it's so good.
he's so
I
raw.
love this fucking series.
My
It's so
guy.
funny. So fucking funny.
All right,
I'm
there we
not.
go.
Because Senku looks so happy when he's saying it. Like, it's not derogatory at all. It's just so, like, matter of fact. Like, I really like women that are very helpful to me in a specific situation right now.
Yeah, he's so honest about it. That's what I love.
Yes.
He's
Ah.
like, well, since you asked, I do have a type.
And it's got nothing to do with your boobs.
Yeah, it's like,
Okay. Do you guys want to go ahead and get into our final thoughts on this?
Yes, yes. Let's go ahead. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
All right.
I fucking love this manga. I'm gonna keep reading it. I really am pleasantly surprised. I didn't think I would hate it, but I thought I would just like, that's good. Yeah, I like it. It's neat, but I fucking love everything about it. I love the science. That shit's super interesting to me, and it's really well done. And that's what I really appreciate. Not a lot of manga pull that off very well. It always feels very contrived and nonsensical whenever they try to do like technobabble or science speak, but this is all super accurate. Um, I love the characters. I want to know more about like the world and what caused the whole Thanos snap level threat on their planet. But I'm just sold enough on like Senku's whole goal to like Minecraft his way up the evolutionary ladder. Like I think it's a really interesting premise, and I've loved it so far. I'm definitely going to keep reading.
All right, Rick. How about you?
Man, this I think has potential to be on my full course. This is an excellent series. I'm extremely impressed by the art. I'm extremely impressed by the ability to like balance all these characters and make every single chapter feel fun and engaging no matter what's going on. The comedy is on point. When there's action, it is really, really well done and well put together, and it's fun to read and experience the pacing of that. Like there is almost I have almost no criticisms of this manga. I think it is excellent, and I definitely highly recommend it. I don't know if I will sit down and continue to read it, but that is mainly because I feel like this will come back up in this series, and I kind of want to save it for that. But that is the only reason. Like if it was just like I had picked this up on my own and was reading through it, I would just blaze through this whole thing.
I will tell you
So
now, it was not my planned next pick, but I will pick it again if that's what I have to do to get you guys to read through the Tsukasa fight. So just be aware, if you're gonna force my
it
hand, you will be reading the rest of this.
I feel like one of us should have a newbie's reaction when we get to there. So I might hold off just for that.
All right.
But if so, I look very much forward to you picking it again.
Okay. For me, it is on my full course already. I fucking love the shit out of this series. So, like, I obviously I'm an anime like count, and I do shit with anime all the time and everything. But I actually don't have like a giant stable of anime that I love. I'm actually super picky, and like I like maybe like I don't even have 10 series that I have on my full course right now. Like, I think I have 2 empty slots still, because like fuck most anime basically. Um,
Yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah, I feel that. Yeah, I
yeah,
feel that
fuck
heavy.
almost all anime. But I really, really love this series. This is a series where I could just sit down and just read it start to finish and just be content the whole time. There's never a point where I'm like, wow, this shit is like, can I just get to the next chapter? Like every other, especially nowadays, because I read a lot of manga that's like out, that's coming out consistently, and Black Clover, My Hero Academia, Demon Slayer, um, even Jojolian, I have these points where I'm like, okay, let's just get through this. Like I'm really excited that shit's gonna happen after this. Let's just get it done. I never feel that way with Doctor Stone. I'm always excited and into whatever it is that they're doing. And I don't know if it's because maybe that it's not so tropey, where like, oh, Jotaro's gonna fight Dio, Jotaro's gonna win. Let's just see what happens. With this, it's like Senku has to do this, and I don't know shit about science, so I have no fucking clue how he's gonna do this. And I'm really excited to see what they end up having to do because it's gonna be crazy and awesome. And
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a good point too, because like we know how Star Platinum works, right? Like we know the ways that Jotaro could win against Dio, unless he just like makes one up. Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
unless
to
it
be
just
fair,
happens.
Jotaro's biggest power is I'm going to make up a new power right now to deal with this
Well, like
situation.
but that's the thing is like in a lot of shows, like their skill set, everything that they can do. You can predict how they'll win, or
Right.
that they'll invent a way to overcome it. But in this, it's like no, it's science, and if you don't know anything about science, you literally have no idea how he can get from point A to point B, and that is like the interesting part for me too. So
Yeah,
I would
like,
agree
oh
with
no,
that.
the
Like,
Z Fighters can't beat Cell. Somebody is getting another Super Saiyan form. Like that, I don't know who it is. Apparently it's Gohan. Someone's gonna fucking do it. In this,
Curveball, it's Yamcha.
yeah, somebody's transforming. Someone's getting really pissed off and getting stronger, and that's what's gonna happen. And there's nothing like that in this, and it's
Man, I would love
great.
that series so much more now if Yamcha had been the one to beat Cell.
Read the reincarnated as Yamcha manga. It's actually really
Oh,
great.
it's so good. It's so good. I love
It's
that thing.
really
That thing
great.
is amazing.
But yeah, I don't know. I'm always ready to like. This is the only manga where I'm reading the chapters now, and I'm like, oh fuck, that's it. Fuck, like where's the rest of it? With everything else, I'm like, oh okay, that was pretty cool. I like Demon Slayer a lot. That's the one I've been reading recently. Kimetsu no Yaiba, however you say it. I like it a lot, but like I've never been at this point where I hit the end of a chapter and I'm like, oh fuck, come on, why? I'm just like, oh neat, shit's happening and it's cool and I like it. This is definitely the only modern manga, except maybe JoJolion, because I do really love that too. That just blows me away every week, consistently. Like the arc they're in right now is just fucking crazy, and I don't want to spoil anything for anybody, but it's I never thought that it would have like gotten to this point because it's not a logical progression of events that leads to this. So it's just fucking great.
Okay.
Ah, it's so good.
I'm interested in that. Okay.
Oh man, I don't want to. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there's
you
just a
better not.
tiny.
You
I
keep
keep
saying
saying it.
that, so
I
you're
keep
making me
saying it.
nervous.
I just want to find a panel that has no context whatsoever, and I want to show it to the two of you. It has zero. You will have no idea what the fuck it is when you see it. If I can even find it, I might not be able to find it because I don't remember what chapter that it's in. Um, but god damn it, it's like
You ain't finding it, dog.
give me a minute. Give me a minute. Give me a fucking minute here.
What is that? The beginning of this podcast?
What I will say is because I have a way to bring everything back to apparently the only manga I've ever read in my life. That Senku has this weird like quirky thing that he does when he talks, where he like brings everything back to like 1 billion% or 1 million percentage or whatever. Like he has that like, oh, I bet there's a 10 million% chance that I'm correct or something like that. And he even like earlier on in the series, he says stuff like, I'm not even 1 millimeter, away from being incorrect. And that reminded me of the guy in Toriko who's always talking about like 1 millimeter and some shit like that. And I just thought that was like really funny. I don't know what the like significance of that is with Senku. I don't know if it's just like a being really
He's smart
smart
man
thing.
and says smart words. Basically, is the
Yeah,
significance of it at this point.
because Rick hasn't gotten there in Toriko yet, but I know that there is a significance to it in that one guy, Yuta, in Toriko, and I just thought like it seems like a really odd coincidence for him to have that like exact same like verbal fixation And I was like, I thought it would be really interesting if like there was some kind of like meaning behind that, but it's probably just me, smart science man, me talking percentages.
To
Man,
my
I picked up
understanding, that's
Toriko
what it
again for
is.
like 10
Yes.
more seconds. I picked up Toriko for like just because I was like, I should pick this back up and read a little more. And I found myself like 10 chapters later, like, oh my god, I'm not gonna sleep tonight. Ah, shit's great.
Yeah, that's what we should do next. Dr.
Well,
Dr. Mid.
well, no. Since you're talking about that, I will go ahead and reveal the great secret that is the next thing that I'm going to pick for our next episode, and I'm sure you'll all be very surprised to find out that it is One Piece.
Hell
Shocker! Wow, I
Right?
had no fucking clue.
Means I don't have to do any homework.
Right? Exactly. I don't have to reread this shit. I've done it already. No, but like I'm really wanting to get Zen through some of this. So I'm saying
Okay.
we're gonna read the first. So we always end up going over. It feels like what we plan to read. But the plan is the first. I believe. Let me make sure of this. The first 41 chapters of One Piece. That'll get us through Usopp's arc. And if you guys want to read more and get through Sanji's arc, that would be great. If you want to get to Arlong's arc, I will be ecstatic because I want to talk about Arlong's arc so very bad. Because Arlong, oh no, that's like 100 chapters. There's no way you guys are gonna do it. But if you did,
I was gonna say, man, why don't we just read the whole series? We'll just talk about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. Zen, that way you only have to talk about One Piece once. Go ahead and just bust out those 900 chapters.
Well, if I read it at the same pace that I read Hunter x Hunter, I could be ready in 9 days.
I mean, I cannot tell you how ecstatic that would make me because it would mean you were as engaged with One Piece as you were with Hunter x Hunter. But I don't expect that. Let's just bust out those first 41 chapters. I feel like that gets us to a good spot. It gets us through what I consider the part of One Piece that I'm like, okay, he's still finding his footing. It's whatever. I feel like when he gets to Sanji's arc, and especially when he gets to Arlong's arc, that's when he starts firing on all cylinders and really gets his magic going.
I really feel like I'm the only person who likes Syrup Village. Like, at all.
I like it more on rereads.
I'll do it next week. I will cap for your shitty ass pirate manga next week, dog.
Your shitty ass number 2 favorite in your opinion. Okay.
I will go to bat for one of the most universally hated arcs in all of One Piece next week.
Oh man, this is gonna be a fun podcast next week.
So I found the picture. I'm gonna send it in the chat. I just want your immediate reaction. This is the last panel that sets off the current arc that we're on. There's no context to it whatsoever. There's only one speech bubble even. So.
All right, let's see this. Shit, did fucking like the rose bomb from Hunter x Hunter go off right before this? Jeez. Senku looks fucking creepy as shit.
Chapter 95.
Yep.
That's a fucking boat. What the fuck has got to be going on at this point?
Some serious shit is happening. And
right,
when you get there, you're going to like it a lot.
Awesome. That is fantastic.
Guess I'm reading more.
Twitter fucking exploded when this chapter came out. For whatever Dr. Stone Twitter, it can't be that big. But people were
so you had like
going off.
You had like 10 tweets to like, I guess, right?
Yeah, it was probably like 11 or 12 tweets, which is pretty good.
Given Zen's popularity in this podcast, clearly we will have 14 to read next time.
Yeah, we'll have a couple more people on the train.
Well, I hope to be on that train at some point. I don't know if I'll be able to and keep myself from reading more of this manga because it is fucking great.
Yeah, because you gotta finish Toriko anyway. So
I do honestly. I'm kind of jonesing to go read some more of it because they are riding in that watermelon octopus to go into the gourmet world, and I am just all about this shit.
Also a good series, but we're talking about Dr. Stone today. Let's chill fucking Toriko for 5 minutes.
Dr. Stone.
Any show that Neo's on is the Toriko show. Let's be real.
Hell yeah. I'll always find a way.
Neo finds a way. That turned into fucking William Shatner instead
Yeah,
of
it
Jeff
started
Goldblum there at the end.
Goldblum. It did not end Goldblum.
Life finds a way.
There you go. Now we're there.
Close
That's
enough.
a good note to end on.
Just gotta say a lot and pause.
All right. This is probably a good place to call it because this is our longest episode now
Yeah,
officially.
we're just
Is it
devolving
really?
into madness.
Oh
Yeah,
my gosh! I
we've
thought it
hit
would be
we've
like
hit
our shortest.
the podcast inevitable conclusion where you run out of shit to say and you just devolve into shit talking at one another and just it's gone. It's
Hey,
gone.
The best part of the show, you mean?
This
Basically.
is where you find gems. This is where gems are made. True nuggets of comedy and entertainment.
All right, but thank
Alright,
you
get me
everybody
out of here.
for watching this episode. I know it's the long one, but it's worth it because god damn it, I love the shit out of this series. Read it for God's sake. If you don't read Toriko and Sumo, whatever, read this though.
All right, I don't know about all that, but
Read Toriko, read Sumo, read this. But if you have to stick in order, it's
preferably
it's Toriko,
Stone first,
this,
then
and then
Toriko, then
Sumo.
hell
Sumo
yeah.
on the bottom. All right, I'm gonna leave before Neo quits out of the call. After I said that shit.
Thanks for watching, listening, reading, breathing.
Thanks for acknowledging the series exists. The few of you diehards that watch this shit. Bye.